preparing for, maybe you feel a bit nervous about going into this very high stakes, high pressure meeting. In this video, I'm going to share with you a couple of strategies that will help you to stay cool in those very high stakes, high pressure meetings. Now, this is a live Q&A. Therefore, you are welcome to ask me any questions as it relates to this topic specifically, whether you are watching the video live or you happen to be watching the replay. This is an opportunity to ask me anything as it relates to what you may be navigating right now. Maybe you have a difficult situation that's coming up. This is what Friday evenings are for. This is when we're going to talk about any questions you have specifically. Now, if you are new to me, welcome, welcome. If you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. Good to see you. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you are a woman in leadership, a man in leadership, or someone that is thinking about leadership, I guarantee you, you will learn something from this channel. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you like the content after you've looked at a couple of things. Now, I'm going to give you just a couple of insights to consider while we're waiting for the audience to join as to how you can keep cool in meetings. I'm going to outline them very briefly, and then we'll go into more detail. One aspect of trying to keep cool in meetings that I want you to keep in mind is that number one, someone has asked you to speak to them. Remember, you're an expert. I'm going to talk about that in just a few moments. The second strategy I want to share with you, or insight rather, is that you have to prepare in advance. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about how do you prepare for those very high stakes meetings. And third, I'm going to share with you another secret that you want to keep in mind when you're preparing for these meetings, and that is to come prepared to talk about some data. We need some statistics, and then get ready to think about what objections, what are some areas of pushback that you might observe. Now, all of this we're going to talk about in the video, so you absolutely want to watch this until the end because I'm going to give you over 20 years worth of my expertise as it relates to being in those very senior executive roles and navigating some of those complex situations that happen when you are under pressure. Now, one of the things that a lot of people fail to realize, and this is probably one of the most important mindset shifts that I want you to consider as you are preparing for whatever high stakes, high pressure meeting that you have. And that is you are an expert. How many of you have been in a meeting or have been called to a meeting to share your experiences, your knowledge on a specific topic? If you have, put it in the comments below. I want to let you know that most of the time, majority of the time, when someone asks you for your expertise or your guidance, or they need you to present to, let's say, some of your business partners, perhaps a board of directors, maybe to stakeholders, or maybe to constituents, or etc., there's a certain amount of expertise that you have as an individual that other people do not have. One of the reasons why people have a hard time staying cool in those very high stakes, high pressure meetings is because they forget this very fundamental aspect of speaking in front of a group of people. They go into the meetings and they completely become very nervous. How many of you have ever became very nervous when you had to speak in front of a group of people? Have you? It's very common that people become very nervous when they're having to speak or present information that they actually know, but there's this small part of their mind that tells them, no, you don't know everything, and these people know everything, and etc. If you can grasp this one aspect, now I know I have a lot of things that I share with you here on the channel in terms of navigating those very high stakes, high pressure situations. But if you can grasp this one, and there's a reason I have this as first, it will completely start to help you to be a bit more calmer in terms of how you communicate in those meetings. Remember, you are an expert in your field. Even if you may not know every single thing about your field, there is a certain depth of knowledge that you have that the other people do not have, which is the reason why they asked you to come and speak to them. So remember that. This will help you to build up your confidence and know that you know a lot of information. It's just a matter of being able to articulate it. Now, if you happen to be a woman in leadership and you are at a point where you have the great knowledge base, but perhaps you're struggling with the delivery, then I encourage you to contact me at exciteexcellence.org. My high stakes communication intensive will completely change your life, where these situations that happen will not be areas that you're concerned about in terms of, what should I say? How should I say it? It will come up for you in the form of a reflex just because we'll work together and I'll help you be able to do that. We'll talk about that more in a few moments. Now, the second aspect or strategy I want to share with you to help you start to remain cool in those very high stakes, high pressured meetings is to prepare. Now, how many of you have been in a meeting and you completely just went blank? You had to present information and you just forgot where you were, forgot where you were on your slides, you just didn't know what to say. It happens, so don't feel bad. The reason why it happens is because sometimes when we're in those very high pressured meetings, we may prepare, but we may not prepare the way I'm telling you to prepare. That's why you want to watch this video until the end. There's preparing it to the point where you can just recite information. Majority of the time, that is what leaders or individuals will do when they're trying to prepare for those high stakes information. They try to memorize what they need to say. Now, is memorization important when you're speaking in front of a group of people or you are doing some public speaking? Absolutely. You're going to need to memorize some of it if you want to use some of these strategies and secrets I've shared with you on this channel to help you be a unforgettable speaker in front of a group of people. But there comes a point of preparation that has to go a bit deeper than what your surface level preparation may have been in the past. Now, when you're preparing for those high stakes, high pressure meetings, what are some of the things that you do to prepare for those really challenging meetings? Put it in the comments below. Remember, we have a lot of people that watch the videos live, and we do have a lot of people that watch the videos via replay. So, any insights that you can share, whether you're watching live right now or watching the replay, helps our audience to grow. We are an exceptional group of leaders here, and my goal is really to help everyone be supported so that they can manage these under pressure situations with my insight and your insight. We're going to build a incredibly strong community here. So what do you do? What do you do exactly? Let me share with you a couple of aspects of preparation that you may want to keep in mind. Memorization is important. You do need to have some type of ability to recollect what it is you need to say. Now, if you want to just read from a slide, excuse me, read from a script, you're more than welcome to do that. Many people do that when they are in those very high stakes, high pressure meetings. If you do that, it's putting you into the average leader category. Okay. And this channel really is focused on the exceptional leaders, the leaders that can influence, that can persuade, that can engage. Therefore, try not to be so heavily dependent on your slides, on your scripts, because it does not make your public speaking or your presentation feel like a conversation. And that is one of the secrets that I talk about here on this channel and I work with my clients on specifically so that when they are speaking in public, it feels like you're having a natural conversation with someone, not a presentation where you're just presenting information. A couple things you want to do outside of memorizing the information that you are going to be presenting in this high stakes meeting is to make sure you take some time to find some statistics. Now, you may have some, but I encourage you to start to develop your own database of statistics that you are going to talk about in your presentation. Plus, some statistics that you may not talk about in your presentation, but you have them in your back pocket. Okay, you have them in your back pocket just in case someone asks you a question about a topic, an aspect of your presentation that you were not expecting them to ask, but you have some data that you can use to articulate exactly what it is that may be a concern for them, what some of the data is representing as it relates to your topic or your industry, and etc. I'm sharing with you secrets. And if you like these secrets, please give the video a thumbs up because this is how more of this content goes to other individuals out in the world. Many of you know that I am on a mission to build the largest high stakes, high pressure content library for leaders on planet Earth. So let me know if you have any questions, but I'm sharing with you secrets that people really don't talk about. I want to say hello to Jeremy Bullwinkle 3972. High five, Jeremy. Good to see you, friend. How have you been? Jeremy says, hello, Dr. Jacinta. Yes, TGIF, friend. Absolutely. Appreciate you. And good to see you here, Jeremy. Jeremy says, no questions today. Just want to hear you talk. Okay, well, no problem. If any questions come up for you, Jeremy, I'm here for you, friend. You just let me know if something comes up for you. Okay, so as I mentioned, getting some data together will be helpful. Have some statistics, some numbers that you're going to talk about in your presentation, and have some other statistics, some numbers, some data that, what did I say? You have to have them in your back pocket. Okay, you have to have them in your back pocket because just in case someone asks you a question, you need to be able to pull out what I call the superstar card because people are sometimes not really expecting you to have that data. So make sure you're preparing for that in advance. So have some statistics, prepare in advance, memorize what you need to, but realize that you can't use your presentation, you can't use your slides, you can't use your script as a crutch because it will make it very difficult for you to keep cool in those meetings because you're going to be frantically trying to think through what did I say? What was I going to say on slide one? Oh gosh, what was I going to say on slide two? And then it causes you to lose your cool. All right, let me go to the chat. Ches, man of culture. Hello, friend. High five. How are you doing today? Ches says, good day. Ches says, what's the topic today? So, Ches, the topic today is how to keep your cool in high stakes meetings. This is a live Q&A. If you have any questions, any topics that you are navigating or you are dealing with, Friday night is Q&A. I'm here to support you and answer any questions that I can with the time that we have. So if you have anything you're dealing with or a subject you're wanting to learn more about, as it relates to just being able to navigate into different roles or income and et cetera professionally, I'm here to really answer any questions. But I try to give some insight on a topic and then I'll let you all guide the conversation based on what it is that you want to learn more about or what questions you may have. Okay, so we talked about a couple of things already. One is make sure when you're trying to be cool for these meetings, understand that you are an expert. There's a reason why people are asking you to talk about a specific topic. So never forget that. Two, we talked about preparing in advance, making sure you have some data, some statistics, things that you want to be prepared to talk about. And the more you practice what you're going to say, the more comfortable it will be for you to say it, which will help you to start to keep your cool because you already know what you're going to say. The reason why people do not keep their cool in those very high stakes, high pressure meetings, whether they are presenting to their boards, presenting to a group of their peers, presenting to their constituents, or presenting to their business partners, or presenting to a group of people, I could go on, is because they haven't had the chance to really prepare at length in terms of being comfortable with what they have to say and the knowledge that they know. Now, the third secret that I want to share with you, and this is something I work with my clients on, but I want to tell you that this is something people don't talk about as it relates to preparing for those high stakes, high pressure meetings. Are you ready? The third aspect, or insight rather, secret, I would say, is when you are preparing for those meetings, you have to present whatever it is specifically for your discipline. When you are preparing for those meetings, I want you to take some time, and this is why preparation is so incredibly important. But take a few moments, just a few moments, to think about what are some of the potential objections or areas of pushback that you may receive as it relates to this topic. Now, what I'm sharing with you is what I work with my clients on specifically when they are in very, very highly visible roles and they are worried that they may not be able to respond to a question because they just simply don't know how to have answers to everything. You don't have to have answers to everything, but you do need to think, and you need to think through, well, what are some of the problems with what I'm presenting? Maybe what are some of the trends that are going on in your industry? Could be worldwide, depending on specifically what you're referring to and talking about. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing right now where people have concerns about whatever it is that you're presenting? Maybe there's an aspect of your project or the initiative you're working on or your implementation. It just depends on what it is specifically. But there may be some aspect of it that people really don't like. Maybe there's an aspect of it that has caused a lot of problems to your customers, your clients, your constituents, your end users. I could go on and on and on. Maybe there's something that people don't like. Maybe there's some trending topics about the pros and the cons of your project or some of the negative consequences that happen with your project. So if you take some time to really think through what it is that could potentially come up as a debate, or it could come up as an area of an objection, it could come up in the form of pushback, then you have already taken some time to think through what could potentially come up. Because most people, and I'm telling you, majority of people that are leaders, they do not do what I'm sharing with you right now because sometimes they're just simply not taught how to do it. Or no one has showed them, which is the reason why you absolutely want to subscribe to the channel, friend. But leaders come into meetings and they do what we have typically been taught to do. Take some time, type your slides, try to rehearse it, and then that's it. A lot of times people completely forget about the Q&A part of it, what questions that may be asked of them, and then they definitely don't think about the potential objections and the potential areas of pushback that they may receive as it relates to this topic specifically. So, what I'm sharing with you is they truly are secrets. And you can look on YouTube and you may find information about this, you may not. But when it comes to being able to communicate under pressure, this is why I am so incredibly passionate about this, because I don't want you to be the average leader. The average leader will type their presentation, read it a couple times, and go present and talk to the group. And then when they get asked Q&A and questions and they get nailed potentially or grilled about why this is the issue and etc., they freeze. And then everybody in the room looks at this person and say, oh, yeah, that didn't go as well as we thought it was going to go, or now we're going to miss out on this project, or now the client is not going to accept our proposal. All of these things can truly impact you. And a lot of times, as leaders, we don't really think about it because no one really breaks down the actual pressure side of communication in a way that I do, because these are just small things that will cost you a lot of money. They will cost you a lot of time. They'll cost you your reputation. They'll cost you a lot of things. So keep these in mind as you're navigating these challenging meetings. And if you do all these things, it will help you to stay cool in those meetings because you'll be a bit more prepared. Now, there's a lot more I can talk about, but let me go to chat because I saw something pop up a moment ago. Chaz Man of Culture says, when presenting project ideas to management, being well prepared is nearly impossible because you never know what they will ask. Well, that can happen, but there's ways, Chaz. There's always a way, friend. There's ways for you to go around it and try to. You may not know exactly what they're going to say, but you're going to know enough. So this is what I would do. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned that. I had a conversation earlier today at the Beyond Business conference here at Broward County today. And one of the questions that I was having a dialogue about was something like that. So if I was in that situation and I'm presenting to management, this is what I would do, Chess. I would prepare. I would prepare in advance. I would definitely have my data points. So I would have whatever statistics it is that I need to present to management as it relates to this specific topic. I would have my data, some of it in my back pocket that I'm not going to present in the meeting, but I have it as a backup in case I need to use it during the conversation. I would find out what's going on in my industry or specific ideas that I'm referring to. So you mentioned about presenting a project ideas to management. I've been in the management role. I've been a C-suite executive for a really long time, and I understand the kind of questions that we think about as C suites. We think about questions and situations in terms of the long term strategic impact. So, for instance, Chaz, if someone came to me and they are presenting something to me as a C suite when I was in a working for an organization, the questions I would have would be, how much is this going to cost? That's number one. And then what resources do we need to have to make sure that this project is successful? What's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years as it relates to this project or this industry or maybe this new idea? And what are some potential problems that we could have? And so if you think of it in that way, or kind of answer some of those questions, those are really the main things that we're thinking about is money, resources, time, what's going to happen in the future. Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? That's really how we think. And if you are trying to present to management, if you think of it that way or start thinking of it in those terms, it will help you to start gathering those data points. That's the reason why I mentioned about preparing for those objections and potential areas of pushback is really important. Now, Chaz, another part of that I would do if I was presenting to management is I would start to ask around questions. So if you are given a presentation where it's just on the fly last minute and someone tells you to present something, it might be a bit harder to do, but it's important to start having those relationships and that dialogue with people that are in different management roles or leadership roles or managing different projects, so you stay in the know. If you stay in the know and you have an idea, okay, I know the management, I heard about the management having some concerns about this project, or they had some concerns about personnel. I heard a little bit about that. It actually helps you to be able to present a very persuasive argument when you are presenting to management because you know a little bit of the backstory about what is going on with your project or with these ideas. Maybe you're in a situation where there's a project that you want to present in terms of an idea, and you've asked around and you found out that management has heard this project before. They did not go forward with it because of A, B, and C. So you may want to think about, okay, if management has heard this before, they did not go with it because of A, B, and C. What are some aspects of this project that I can go ahead and already address that basically are going to highlight why A, B, and C would not be an issue moving forward. Now, this requires a lot more preparation than what normally people would say they need to do. And that's why sometimes it can be kind of challenging when you're presenting to management. But I'm sharing with you on the management side from being in those roles that there's certain aspects of projects that we always consider, and if it feels hard because you don't know what they're going to say, I want you to think about it a little bit differently, Chiz. Let's figure out how we can learn as much as we can so we are prepared. So finding out what's going on in an organization, what are some areas that they may be struggling with that you can already bring up in your presentation, in your conversation. So what you're basically doing, Chaz, is you're going to address the objections before they even come up. That is a very, 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 very strategic way to do your presentations. And I would say it's probably a bit more of an advanced way to do it because most people don't think in that way. They think in terms of, okay, well, this is what I got. This is my idea. This is how it's going to help everybody. And the company's going to be great and everything's going to be fine. But there's ways that you can go ahead and address the objections so that when it comes time to Q&A and people may be asking you questions and maybe wanting to know more, if you already know that these are some problems that your management team have had in the past around this project, around this department, around these ideas and etc., then you have an idea that you can talk about these projects or these issues that they have in your presentation so that when you are at Q&A time, they may be asking you questions that are not even related to the objections or the concerns that they would have because you have essentially already addressed some of them. Don't let management intimidate you. And when you feel like you're not quite sure, well, I don't know what they're going to say, there's always a way around it. And that's just how I think of things. When people come to me and they say, oh, I got this hard situation, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to figure it out, this is too complicated, in my mind, there's always a way. There's always a way for us to navigate the situation, no matter how complicated and how hard it is. There's always a way. So keep that in mind the next time you're having to present your projects. 'Cause I'm sure you have some pretty amazing projects you want to share with them. Just remember, there's a way. There's a way. Who do I need to talk to right now to find out information? And that's just a big part of elevating as a professional, is understanding that who you communicate with, what information they have to share, building those really solid relationships. It allows you to be that person that may receive information that other people may not have the ability, or I would say the privilege to have that information, because they know Ches, I can talk to Ches about this. I know Ches is not going to go, whispering and talking to people about these projects and the challenges they're having. And that is what helps to build an executive presence. It helps to build trust within your peers, so that when situations come up, and a lot of people may not know about it, they'll say, okay, well, Ches asked me a question about it. I'm going to talk to Ches about it. This is the situation we have going on. This is, something we're not talking about, on the record just specifically, but these are the problems the management team is having as it relates to this issue. That's personally what I would do. I would find out information, learn as much as I can, ask those hard questions. But the thing is about it, it's not, you don't want to ask the hard questions the day before your presentation. It's going to be a little challenging to do that. That's why it's really important to have those good relationships with people. And then also, if you have people that maybe you're not having a good relationship at work, then be able to ask those questions, as we do in executive coaching format, that can help you start to gain some insight in terms of what is really going on. And reading people is important, because you may ask someone that may not be the best person that you are working with. You may ask them a question and they give you one response, Ches, and their facial expressions, as I tell you, maybe are saying something completely different. You automatically know that there's an issue. So I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with someone many years ago. This is when I was not in a C-suite executive role, and this person specifically was in a manager role. I was just helping out at a location, and one of the things is that the office specifically was losing money. And so I had a question, because anytime you're in situations where companies are losing money, businesses are losing money, people are usually pretty quiet about what's going on, because they don't want to have anyone to panic. I'm telling you this from the backside of things. They don't want people to panic. They don't want people to just abandon ship like it's the Titanic. They don't want people to do anything like that. They don't want to say, hey, we're losing a lot of money, we're going to be doing layoffs. Things are really kept quiet. And that's the reason why when people have layoffs and etc., sometimes it's like boom, it's like out of nowhere, and you're thinking, well, what happened? That's the reason why they try to keep some of those things quiet. What happened in my specific situation is that I knew the office was not doing as well as it should be, and I asked some questions, and I said, "Well, what's going on? What's going on with the production?" And the response I received was a very canned response. And if you don't know what canned response means, it is just like a response that you could do through Chat GPT or something. It's a response where it just highlights something very superficial, and it basically says, hold on just a minute. In order for me to give you this response, I need you to pick up some rainbow colored glasses, put them on for just a second, and let me finish telling you what's going on, so that you just see rainbows. And that's the type of response that I received was, oh, everything's fine. Oh, we're doing good. Everything's great. But the res- the facial expressions showed something a bit different. Even though they sounded like everything was fine, they acted as if everything was fine, there was an aspect of their eyebrows, when I asked a few more questions, that I could tell we have a problem. There is an issue. And all of that comes into play when you're doing presentations and you're talking to people. I know that's a bit more in depth than what I would necessarily say we have to do for this particular topic, but Ches, I want you to be really successful, friend. And I'm sharing with you things that will automatically help you to really stand out from everybody else, because most people, as I mentioned, they're not going to do that, Ches. They're not going to be the person that is the keeper of information, that knows a lot of things about a lot of issues that are going on. They're just going to be that average leader that just goes through the motions and says, oh, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what they're going to think. I'm just going to keep going. Friend, there's a way. Just remember, there's always a way. And if you ever have any situations coming up and you're just not quite sure how to navigate it, I'm here for you. Just let me know what questions you have, and I'll definitely help you talk through that issue specifically. Now, I shared with you a lot of secrets that I personally do. This is what I do with my clients in a one on one session. If this sounds like, wow, this was really helpful to me, and I really need to start working on this so that I can start to navigate what's going on in my business, in the office I'm working at, or whatever the case may be, to help me advance, then you're always welcome to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org. If you have questions, you're always welcome to email me. There's several ways I can support you in terms of being able to really truly become that exceptional person that communicates very confidently and concisely under pressure. All of this comes together. It comes together, and this is the reason why when people think about leadership, as I mentioned, most leaders know how to communicate. I don't, there's some leaders that struggle with it. We talk about here that on the live often, but most people, leaders, they know how to say something. They can put a couple words together, a couple sentences together to talk to their teams. There's a reason why they probably are in a leadership position. Sometimes you just really not quite sure how are they in this role. But when the conversation goes under pressure, when you are not sure what the management is going to say, when you're not exactly sure how you want to respond to Q&A so that you're not the person that freezes and looks like you don't know what you're talking about, even though you do know what you're talking about. That is why all of these things I've shared with you come into play. It's not just one single event, it's not one single conversation, it's not one single YouTube video that will help you to develop those very high level ninja like skills that you need to have when you are trying to elevate in terms of how you communicate. Because I'm telling you, once you learn how to read people, you will pick up on things so incredibly quickly compared to other people. Most people just look at people, they do not observe their facial expressions. And a lot of that will tell you a tremendous amount of information in terms of what's going on, what people are thinking, and even when you're doing your presentation. So, all the things we talked about in terms of speaking in front of a group of people, what to say, how to say it, tone of voice, eye contact, and all of that. It is incredibly important. But sometimes you may be in a presentation with someone and or with a group of people, and you start to observe different types of facial expressions that people make when it relates to a specific topic. This is at a advanced level, and if this is something you are starting to work on, this takes it takes a bit of time to develop that. That's why you work with me, so I can help you do it. But you'll start to pick up on things. So that's the reason why when I talk about doing your presentations and preparing them and having your data points ready and all of those things we just talked about, there's a reason behind that. The reason is if I can get you to be that prepared in your presentation where everything just comes off quickly, you're not thinking about it, it's just second nature, it's like a reflex, then you will have the ability to start really paying attention to the room. Most people do not do this. They're terrified to speak in front of a group of people, or they think they're so well at speaking in front of a group of people that they forget to pay attention to the facial expressions of those in the room. And they completely bypass that this person, this individual, this client literally checked out when you talked about this topic or etc based on their facial expressions. Now I know this is definitely more of a deep dive, but I'm always happy to help you all any way that I can, and I'm here to share with you any secrets I can to help you. Some of us may actually work together in a consultation or executive coaching type of format. Some of us may never work together, and even if we don't and we're in different parts of the world, I still want you to be able to learn how to navigate these situations and really put everything together, because if I can help you, then you can help somebody else, and you can help your kids or your loved ones or your colleagues. And I want this to go on to other generations, because this is a major aspect of communication that people just struggle with. They struggle with these things. Now, what I'm sharing with you is definitely more advanced. This is more, you are trying to really go to a high level, whether you're a business owner, or you're a public official, or you are navigating through a different roles. Maybe you're a director, project manager, you're trying to go into a C-suite executive role or director role, senior VP. I'm sharing with you what I would tell someone if they are really serious about trying to make some changes and make some advancement in their careers. These are just things that you develop over time, but sometimes we just don't know how to do it. right? Sometimes when you're in these situations and you're talking to people, we just simply just we know there's aspects of communication, there's things we have to do, but sometimes it's hard to find out on YouTube for someone to actually break it down and say that specifically. I'll tell you that the high stakes communication assessment that I have, that is in the ebook that I'm going to be releasing here very soon, the very small ebook that I have, I've done it with several people in my network so far, and one of the things that comes out of the assessment itself is that the people I've done it with, because I've done it quite a bit so far, to make sure I have the right questions to help anybody else that is trying to figure out, well, how do I communicate under pressure? The one of the big comments I received from it is, I never really thought about communication at that level, and how some of these things may be holding me back from being able to move forward in my career. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to support you all. I know that was a lot, but that was a really great question, Chaz, in terms of what you asked, because a lot of people, they struggle with this. And I'm sharing with you the reasons why they struggle with it, because it's just something that people, it's hard to explain. Sometimes you just don't know, how do you do this? How do you do that? But unless you actually have someone like myself that has been in it, then you can really, really go into, how can I explain this to you in a way to where you understand why it's so important for you not to be paying attention to just your slides as a crutch. You have to be able to observe the room, because there may be parts of your presentation that you may want to change direction in, based on the eye contact or the facial expressions or the nonverbal gestures that your audience is giving you. Let me know if you have any questions about that. If there's any aspect of what we just talked about that really resonated with you, let me know in the comments below, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. And if there's any aspects of it that we need to go into a bit more detail on, I'd be more than happy to do that. If you're new to the channel, there's several videos on my channel that will help you with being able to communicate more confidently or under pressure, or at least start to develop those fundamental skills that you need. There's several playlists on my channel specifically. One of the ones that I would encourage you to look at is the fundamentals of high stakes communication. It gives you different videos that talk about your tone of voice, managing your emotions under pressure, making eye contact, your verbal and nonverbal gestures, and etc. So if you're new to the channel, start off with the fundamentals. I think that's a great way for you to get started. And then as you start to watch more videos, then you'll start to pick up on executive presence mastery and some other things that I have listed on my YouTube channel. So many of you know, as I mentioned previously, there's a lot of things happening on the back end right now. Major focus I'm working on right now is launching out the communicating under pressure mini ebook that will have that assessment that I referenced. The assessment is so quick. It is a yes or no assessment. You literally can probably do it within 1 to 2 minutes, and it will give you a overall score in terms of what level you are as it relates to how you are communicating under pressure, some of the key milestones or key strengths of individuals that are at this level, and the areas that they have to improve upon depending on where they're trying to go in their career. So it's a good assessment. It's something to take, even if we work together, if we don't work together. It will give you a solid foundation of skills that you need to work on, but ultimately, there's only but so much I can do to help you in a digital setting. There's always a time where we have to work together, because there's certain aspects of how you specifically communicate that a digital format cannot help you with. I have to see you. I have to see how you speak. I have to see what are the topics and situations that cause you to maybe stumble over your words or put you off guard. I do that in my high stakes communication intensive, where we focus on what I call pressure tests, where we create a simulated type of conversation where you may get some pushback. So if I can push back on you and help you be able to think, how can I think through this? Then it will be more of a reflex to you when those situations come up, instead of it being something where you just have to sit and stumble and think, and I'm not sure, I don't know what to do. Most of my clients, when we work together specifically with that aspect, they are able to report back to me that I'm definitely communicating at a higher level than I was before. I'm able to navigate these situations. It's helping me in other life aspects of my journey, and etc. Okay, forensic accountant. Hello, friend. High five. How are you? Good to see you, friend. Forensic accountant 259 says on the treadmill, talk about how physical fitness raises your vibration and also improves your mental health and task completion abilities. Absolutely. So the forensic accountant is a regular here. Appreciate you being here, friend. And so that's a really good point. So exercise, it does something to you, right? And so forensic accountant pretty much alluded to that. Being able to be physically active is very, 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 very important. It does help you to be able to focus and think clearer in terms of what you're trying to do. So as you are thinking about overall, I want to be able to communicate in these hard situations, these high stakes, high pressure situations, and etc. Being able to have your mind in the right space is important too. So being healthy, staying healthy, or doing some type of exercise, as forensic accountant mentioned, to help you be able to just get in the right mindset that you need to manage these situations is helpful. It's very, very helpful. And I appreciate you mentioning that because that's something all of us need to do, whether it's a little bit a day or a couple times a week, just depends on your schedule. But a lot of it comes down to just being able to make that time. So I appreciate you mentioning that and making the time to exercise and be on the treadmill. That is absolutely fantastic. We talked about reading books a little bit earlier this week, I believe. We talked about that. So reading books is going to be a really important part of this as well, just to start to expand your mind. Sometimes, as I mentioned, you have to just be exposed to other things. And sometimes you may not be able to get that direct exposure just from your immediate circle. Sometimes you need to learn from other people that are doing different things. Okay, forensic accountant says skip the chow line and take walk out lunch. Absolutely. And a lot of times when you do that, it helps you to clear your mind. It helps you to not be in the office gossip because I'm telling you at lunchtime is when people like to just talk about whatever's going on, chat about whatever's going on. I know me personally, I just, the lunch break room, I don't even really go in there whatsoever. I didn't go in there because there's always just some chattering going on. And if you take a walk, you're being healthy, you're doing other things to enhance yourself instead of just dealing with office gossip and stuff. Okay, DJ Berg. Yes, DJ. How are you? High five, friend. Good to see you. It's been a while, DJ. Good to see you, friend. DJ says, hey, do you remember me? Of course I do, friend. It's been a little bit. How have you been? I know it's been a while. So good to see you all. I'm so excited that you all are here. I appreciate you being here so much. Sorry, my kids are really close near here, but that's probably why you may hear them in the background. But there's a lot of things going on right now. The channel is growing quite a bit. We're almost at that milestone of 1,000 subscribers. For many of you that are on YouTube, or maybe you are a content creator like myself, the getting to 1,000 subscribers is hard. It is not easy. It's not as easy as LinkedIn, where you send connection requests and you'll get that back, or Instagram, you'll get follows and etc. It's a little bit more challenging on YouTube, and so that's the reason why YouTube puts that 1,000 subscribers as a big milestone in a content creator's journey. So I appreciate you all so much for being a part of that. I will be continuing to work on my channel, Excite Excellence, here with my live videos, my content, etc. But as many of you know, I am going to be starting a separate second channel that is not going to be related specifically to high stakes communication. It's going to be more related to some of the changes I'm doing to my Porsche Cayman. Many of you know I like cars, I like vehicles, so I'm doing a separate channel for that. It's going to be probably more of a personal channel, so you get to learn a little bit more about me, some things I'm going to be end up doing with my vehicle to put it together because it's got some work I have to do to it, but it'll be more of a definitely a fun channel for sure. There's a lot of stuff you'll learn. There's a lot of stuff you'll learn about me, and we'll grow together. Okay, DJ Burke says, what are we talking about? So, DJ, what we talked about, and I'm going to give you just a real quick overview really quickly because I know it's been a while and we're about to wrap up in just a few. Today, we're talking about being able to stay cool in those very high stakes, high pressure type of meetings. So whether you're presenting to a board or presenting to a group of people or presenting to stakeholders, constituents, business associates, on and on and on and on and on. A lot of times people will lose their cool in those meetings. So the reasons why people lose their cool, and what are some strategies I would recommend for you to do so that you don't lose your cool is to, one, make sure you prepare in advance. Well, first, actually, let me rephrase that. The very first thing that I want you to remember is that you have been asked to present this information. Therefore, there is an aspect of the information you have that people feel as if you are an expert in, and they're asking for your guidance. A lot of times people struggle with that. We talked about that in a little bit more depth, DJ, if you want to take a look at the replay. But knowing that you are an expert, there's a reason why they asked you to be here. The second is to make sure you prepare. So I talked about getting your statistics, having your data together, making sure you're in a really solid place so that if someone asks you a question, you have some data to support it in your presentation. And then third and finally, we talked about making sure that you prepare for those objections, and you also prepare for some pushback that you may receive in those meetings so that you can be fully prepared to observe the room and see the reactions of the audience based on what you said. That's just a summary of the past 45 minutes we've been live in about a minute or two. So that's what we talked about specifically. Ches had a really great insight that he mentioned earlier, specifically as it relates to how can you start to learn what your managers are. It's kind of hard to present sometimes because you don't know what your managers are or maybe thinking and presenting. And so we had a really long, well, I gave a long synopsis as to how this can be something that you can overcome so that you have an idea as to what some issues may be happening so that you can prepare in advance. So we talked about that at length. So that's overall what we talked about. So I appreciate you all so much for being here and being an amazing part of the channel. The channel's growing. Feel free to share it with any of your colleagues or friends that are trying to really enhance themselves and want to be able to communicate at a higher level, because I see so many people become very stagnant in their careers because they're not able to articulate themselves and communicate under pressure. As I mentioned, most leaders know how to communicate, but what happens when this conversation goes under pressure? That is where people start to struggle, and that is where I want you all not to struggle by following my content. Okay, DJ Berg says, don't lie to the customer. It will bite you in the butt. I agree with you on that. Be honest and say, I can't answer that question. Yes, so that, DJ, that's a really great insight, and I appreciate you mentioning that. Honesty is so incredibly important. I know sometimes, depending on the situation you're in, there may be aspects that you can't necessarily disclose publicly just yet. That happens sometimes in leadership roles, but you want to be as transparent as possible. You should be able to still say, this is the information that I know, and these are the aspects of it that we are still finding information out about whatever the issue is. It will come back to bite you. Absolutely, DJ. And I appreciate that because I have seen so many people be in situations where they maybe couldn't say everything. And I understand that. I've been on the executive side. I know forensic accountant has had some really unique experiences too. So I'm sure forensic accountant can attest to this too. Sometimes there's things that come up that you can't really even speak about. But you have to at least say what you can say that will highlight this is what specifically is going on. So making sure you're in a situation where it doesn't come back and bite you is very, very helpful. And I appreciate you so much for mentioning that. So I hope you all have an absolutely amazing weekend, and I will see you all next week in the next video.